Welcome to Astrology of the Unknown,
a true crime astrology podcast.
I'm your host, Joseph Mulholland.
And I'm your other host, William Holloway.
And today it is over 100 degrees in Baltimore.
I'm so sorry.
We almost didn't get a chance to do this podcast because my electricity went out because I don't know exactly what happened, but I do know that when the electric company sent an update after they were able to get the electricity back on, they said the outage was caused by wildlife. So I could have been a squirrel. I have no idea. But William was messaging me earlier and he was like, "Oh, I'm working on the script for the podcast." And I was like, "Yeah, I was too." And then the electricity went out. So
yeah. Well, I'm glad it's back. Hopefully that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, so you might be hearing the low hum of my AC and my fans on and all that stuff, but gotta keep it cool out here. So today we are actually doing a special episode. We wanted to take a look back at a few of our cases that we have covered over the last 10 or so months that we've been doing this podcast. And we wanted to specifically look at 3 cases that either had limited information or like when we initially did the episodes, or cases that have had updates or, some cracks in certain cases. I'm having a hard time talking today.
It's okay.
But today's basically like an update episode. So William, do you want to talk about what cases we're going to look at and also talk a little bit about the kind of astrology, like the astrological method that you're going to use to kind of talk about these cases and where they currently stand?
Yeah, totally. So we decided to look at 3 cases that we've done episodes on in the past. We're going to look at Amy Bradley, which was the first episode that we did. And we're going to do the Burning Man murder.
Burning Man murder. Yep. It's Vadim Kruglov.
Yes,
the man who was murdered.
And we're going to look at Nancy Guthrie again.
Yeah, well, there's been some weird stuff going on with that case, that's for sure.
Yeah,
something broke today that we're going to talk about. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, that's still an ongoing thing. I was really hoping it would have been solved by now, but
me too.
Definitely seems like they're getting closer. Maybe, I don't know, but something I thought would be fun to do when we look back at all of these cases is there's a method where you look at the triplicity rulers of the ascendant sign for each case, and it can give you a sense of the order of events. And so it's kind of another way to look at these charts. And I think that it can give us some further insight into what happened with these cases.
Yeah. Well, should we jump in and see? I want to see this method in action.
All right.
Okay, so first we're going to talk about Amy Bradley. Now, we originally aired the Amy Bradley episode. It was our very first episode, Mystery at Sea, and this September 1st of 2025. So since then, some new information on Amy Bradley's 1998 disappearance has emerged, suggesting that she may still actually be alive. The FBI has questioned 2 individuals with ties to Caribbean sex trafficking. Investigators are tracking a 2023 IP address traced to a Caribbean casino, and a news source suggests Bradley may have had at least 1 child. So these are the key updates from the revitalized investigation and the Netflix docuseries Amy Bradley is Missing. So trafficking suspects. So the FBI has questioned 2 people of interest connected to a prominent Caribbean trafficking ring. We don't know what those conversations consisted of, but we know that they were able to pinpoint a specific trafficking ring and find people in that ring to actually question and talk to. So they have been able to at least have an avenue to start working on the sex trafficking theory. So that's good.
Yeah.
And there was also a casino IP hit. So what that means is investigators traced an IP address from a Caribbean casino's public computer back to a user who was resembling Amy Bradley. The casino's manager initially corroborated that she was in the casino, or somebody who looked like her was in the casino, and using a computer to actually research the Amy Bradley case.
Whoa.
Yes, and this casino manager initially corroborated that she was there, like I said, but they stopped cooperating with investigators when the investigators tried to probe further.
Huh.
But that's an interesting update as well.
When did that happen? So that's happened in the last handful of months?
That actually happened in 2023, but it didn't become public knowledge until recently.
Okay.
Probably why we couldn't find it when we were initially doing our research. And then there is this potential child scenario. So new sources have strengthened theories that Bradley might have had a child, which would indicate she did not die at sea. However, Bradley's family stated that they have no official evidence of this. But so, you know, any evidence regarding this possible child remains purely speculative and unconfirmed. But the claim stems from private investigators and sources tied to the case who surfaced new but unverified information following the 2025 release of the Netflix docuseries Amy Bradley is Missing. These sources suggest that Bradley may have had at least one child, theorizing that the pregnancy would have been the result of her being forced into human trafficking and sex work rather than a voluntary family situation. Additionally, unverified leads and sightings in Barbados, where some have theorized children tied to the case attended local schools between 2003 and 2006, remain highly debated. Online forum discussions indicate mixed opinions, with some skeptics arguing that it would be illogical for traffickers to allow pregnancy or school enrollment, or that Bradley would have attempted to contact authorities. And then there's also the discussion of the FBI reward. So, citing ongoing interest in new evidence, the FBI increased its reward and updated Bradley's official file with age progressed photos. Now, the reward was $25,000, and it has quadrupled since we
Oh,
since we aired our first episode. It's quadrupled to $100,000. And lastly, the Bradley family is actively lobbying for the creation of an Amy Alert campaign, which would be a proposed cruise ship notification system designed to broadcast emergency information on public address systems, cruise apps, and televisions if a passenger goes missing. The FBI wanted poster provides updated photos of what Bradley may look like today. Tips can be submitted directly to the FBI tips page or by calling or visiting your nearest American embassy or consulate, or by contacting the family's investigation team through the Amy Bradley is Missing website. So those are the updates that I was able to find since we aired our first episode on this. If you want to hear the whole story and you're unfamiliar with it, I would go back and listen to our September 1st, 2025 episode titled Mystery at Sea. So now
yeah.
I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about the astrology.
This case was like, it feels like so much has changed in the world since we did this case.
It
Um,
really does. It really does.
right?
Yeah.
And I was initially skeptical of the concept of her being trafficked. And I feel like since, we've learned more and more about Epstein and just so many almost conspiracy theories that
Yeah.
seemed, not realistic have turned out to be true. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's totally possible. So let's look at this chart from a different angle than we did the last time. You can look at the event chart. You look at the first house. We're looking at the triplicity rulers, and triplicity is the elements, so triplicity is our fire, earth, air, and water. And so we look at the triplicity rulers in a certain order, depending on whether it's a day chart or a night chart.
Hmm.
And it gives us a timeline of events. So this chart, so March 24th, 1998 at 5:30 a.m. in around Aruba is where Amy Bradley disappeared.
Hmm.
Anyone familiar with the case? You should be if you're continuing to listen. On the cruise ship that she was staying in with her family. For a period of time, she was kind of hanging out on the deck. That was the last time she was seen. It seems as though she got up and left the room.
Right.
Obviously, there's a whole theory that she fell off, and that's the end of the story, that she either jumped or fell. And there's just no evidence of that. It's much more likely that she left the room. And then where she went next, no one knows. But there are obviously a lot of theories. So
Yes.
the first house is Pisces. We want to look at the triplicity rulers of Pisces. So Pisces is a water sign. The triplicity rulers for the water signs, the day charts are Venus, the night charts are Mars, and the co-ruler or partner planet is the moon.
Hmm.
So since this is technically a night chart because the sun is below the ascendant, that means that we look at first Mars, then Venus, then the moon. So first off, we have Mars. Mars is in Aries, in the first house. This is like Amy having too much energy for the morning, which was probably the reason she left the
Right.
room, right? Young, youthful, probably having an itch to get out and do something. She probably had some kind of plan that no one was aware
Yeah.
of that morning.
Yeah. She had been out all night partying.
Yeah, she'd been out all night partying. There were some people that saw her trying to make plans with different people. Like she was making connections on that boat. She danced with various people. So yeah, she was having the time of her life on that boat. She'd been drinking. I'm pretty sure she had been using marijuana. Some of the theories were that she maybe was going to buy drugs on the island because she was, you know, this would have been around the time you would get ready to try to get off the boat because I think they were docking.
Hmm.
Okay, so after Mars, we have Venus. Venus in the 12th house in Aquarius. So to me, this is like, okay, she's gone off. Now she's in a hidden place. She went somewhere that maybe not everyone's aware of. This would go along with like in the kitchen, behind the kitchen, like there were some people that said they saw her going like in the restaurant area behind the bar into the kitchen.
Hmm.
This would make sense. 12th house is like in a hidden part of the boat that not many people are aware of. Venus connection. So this is definitely like her meeting someone, her connecting with people. She went and met someone or some people, there's multiple people. And then the moon. The moon is also in the 12th house, conjunct Uranus. So it's like she's with the people, then something sudden happens.
Mm.
You know, I think some of the theories we had were like maybe she went down there to smoke pot with someone behind the kitchen or something else. And maybe it was laced with something. Maybe something happened. Or maybe she was then, kidnapped. I think the kidnapping is actually more likely because both the moon and Uranus are ruled by Saturn, which is conjunct Mercury in the second house of abductions, right? Because it's kind of confirms the theory that she met somebody in the kitchen. Maybe they were smoking weed or something. And then all of a sudden, everything changes and she is kidnapped
Yeah.
and transported, right? Mercury is a vehicle. Mercury is like travel. So it's like, you know, restricted, Saturn being restricted, like, not being able to leave and then being taken off somewhere.
Yeah.
So if anything, for me, I feel way more sure that she was kidnapped. And I do think it's very possible that she's still alive. I mean, remember that the planet that represents her in this chart is Jupiter, and it is in Pisces, which is his home sign. But, Jupiter loves to be in Pisces. It gets to
Yeah.
do all the Jupiter things. It's freedom. But
Yeah.
then again, that South Node is conjunct, so that's like also kind of being like snatched up.
Yeah. There we are. Yes, there we are with that one. Uh,
Yeah,
so yeah, so I would agree with you. Think I do think that there is a strong possibility that she's still alive. There have been so many sightings of her that have been reported over the years. And yeah, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that these are all just like random people that might possibly look like her. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hopeful,
yeah,
but it definitely does feel like she's still alive, or at least didn't die that night.
right. She definitely, I believe, lived at least a period of time.
So, should we move on to the next?
Sure.
All right. The next case that we are going to give a little update on is the Burning Man murder. When news broke about Vadim Kruglov, the 37-year-old man who was murdered during the penultimate night of Burning Man on August 30th, 2025, after creating and sharing a heart-shaped mirror installation, little was known about his life. And while this isn't necessarily an update on the case, it's more of an update on who Kruglov was as a person, because when we originally aired the Burning Man murder episode, information was pretty scarce. We didn't even know what his birthday was. And we have since been able to find his actual birthday. So that in and of itself is an update. uh,
Yeah.
like we basically just had to go on vibes. So I wanted to also highlight an article that Salon wrote about Kruglov's life after we aired our episode on his mysterious murder. According to the article, Kruglov was a free spirit. He moved to New York City in 2015 from Omsk, Russia, which is a city in southwestern Siberia with a population of over 1 million. Kruglov's sister, who lives in Omsk with her daughter and grandmother, told Solana in an email written in Russian and translated to English that it was her brother's dream to live in New York City. She said, one day he called me and said, "Sister, I'm in New York. Can you believe it? I made my dream come true. Come and visit." He had stopped at nothing, and nothing could stand in his way. His determination always drove him to achieve his goals to the end. Kruglov's sister said that he was a churchgoer and quietly did good deeds like entertaining children, dressing up as Santa Claus, cooking for parishioners, cleaning, and giving free rides to the elderly. He was a sociable, open, and warm-hearted person, she said. He traveled a lot, worked in aviation, and wrote poetry. He always stood for honesty and justice and carried love in his heart. So Kruglov worked as a fiber optics cable installer in New York, but a little over a year ago, he left the city to embark on a quote unquote walkabout. He traveled across the country, supporting himself with contract work. He spent time in Iowa, Michigan, and most memorably Alaska, where he operated cranes, forklifts, and anchored vessels as a dock worker at Pacific Star Seafoods. After Alaska, he went and stayed with friends in Tacoma and in the greater Seattle area. And then a former colleague of his based in Russia worked with Kruglov as a flight attendant in Russia for an airline. It's called Transaero. Transaero. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but it was an airline that has since gone bankrupt. While they lost touch after he left for America, he and his former coworker did recently connect online in the spring of 2025. And his coworker's last name is Krasnova. And Krasnova said that Kruglov told her how over the last 10 years he had become fluent in English, bought a car, and became a professional in his field. He also confided in her about his challenges with being an immigrant in America, which centered around job searching, the immigration process, and finding a place to live. Krulov wrote to her about Burning Man and what he envisioned for himself in the future. He said, "I just want to live to the fullest He wanted a family. She also told Salon via Instagram Messenger that he wanted to live many, many happy years, but someone stole his life. It's so unfair. It's so hard to believe that it really happened. She said, I miss him. After this tragedy, I once again feel that death is always near and then there is nothing logical about life. When Krugloff was based in the Seattle Tacoma area, he connected with the Ukrainian and Russian Burning Man community there. Nina Nesser, who was part of that community, told Salon via Facebook Messenger that Krugloff was respectful, friendly, and very social. He had a unique way of talking to people as if he had known them forever. His friends in Seattle loved him. They said he was a good guy, not confrontational at all. Nestor said that Krugloff wanted to attend Burning Man because the community is big about it, whatever that means. We have multiple camps, and he had a spot in our camp, Nestor said. However, according to Nestor, he ended up joining a random camp with people he did not know very well at the last minute. So he was supposed to camp with this Russian Burning Man community, and he decided at the last minute to join this random camp. I don't know why, but that was
People he had just met.
yeah. They offered him opportunities to build with his hands, and he was very motivated to give back, Nestor explained. So that's why.
Okay.
She expressed disappointment that he camped with strangers. They saw that he didn't come back for days and his belongings stayed untouched. She said, nobody told us. We thought his phone died or that he was having too much fun with new people, Nestor said. Kruglov's sister shared a similar understanding of the events. People from his camp noticed that Kruglov's tent had been empty for several days, and his friends from the camp hadn't seen him. His sister said in an email, there were witnesses who saw him throughout the day on Saturday in the morning, afternoon, and the evening. The last sighting was at 7:55 p.m., approximately 10 minutes before his death, near the tent where he was killed, she said. Left with few answers about his untimely death and what led to it, Kruglov's community doesn't understand how something like this could have happened to someone like him. And just to give you a timeline of when we aired that episode, we aired it on October 19th of 2025. And this article, I believe, came out in December.
Huh.
So that's all information that we really didn't have going into it. Like we had very little information to go on as to who he was as a person. So it was kind of nice that Salon kind of had this, it was almost kind of like a memorial article, kind of talked about
Yeah.
who he was. And yeah, and you were able to find his birthday. So I'm
Right.
interested to know what that looks like from an astrological perspective.
Well, and you just said that, I mean, now we have a new time. That was the last time he was seen, right?
Yeah,
Let me,
7:55 p.m.
okay. Again, then, yeah, they think the murder happened around 8:30.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that will give a different chart. Let me do this real quick. So, we'll look at this new last seen chart, then we'll look at his birth chart. And yeah, all right. Now we have a new last seen confirmed, 7:55 p.m. on August 30th, which was about 10 to 30 minutes before he was presumed murdered. We've got Jupiter representing Vadim. Jupiter is Cancer in the fifth house. So that's him having fun, connecting with others. You know, Jupiter's exalted in Cancer. That can be sometimes too much of a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the seventh house, which represents the murderer, is ruled by Virgo. So Mercury's in the sixth house, and it is trining Chiron, which to me speaks about some instability, especially in the sixth house. You know, Chiron's the wounded healer. Just makes me think of like wannabe shamans, you know, going to Burning Man.
Yeah.
Or, you know, wounded healer. I wonder if the person that did this, maybe he has some kind of wound or disability that is, you know, visible or something, you know. Well, let's do the triplicity method here. This is a nighttime chart. It's water triplicity because it's Pisces. So that means we're looking at Mars, then Venus, then the moon. Mars, he was having a fight with somebody, Mars and Libra, maybe of a romantic nature,
Mhm.
which I think was something that we had talked about as a possibility. Then next up, we have Venus and Leo in the fifth house,
Mm,
partying.
yep.
And then we have the moon in the ninth house in Sagittarius, which, I mean, maybe that means that whoever did this, they got the hell out of town. Like they are, like maybe even another country. You know, the ninth
Oh,
house can
wow.
be about traveling to other countries.
It also doesn't help that like the town that was built around this was completely taken down and wiped away. Like it's like the worst possible scenario to have a crime scene because
Yeah.
like there's no way to preserve evidence.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably going to take somebody that knows something in order to find out who did this.
Yeah.
I do think drugs were involved. And that might have had something to do with the act of violence. You know, maybe he was hitting on someone's girlfriend, or maybe he was connecting with someone who had a boyfriend and he found out, or I don't know, you know, something like that. Something of a romantic nature instigated this, I believe.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
he was a really attractive guy. I'm sure it was easy for him to like flirt and connect with people.
he had an accent.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at his birth chart. When you were giving a summary of that article about his life, I hadn't read or heard a lot of that stuff. And it was just interesting how it really, I think, speaks to his birth chart.
Cool.
Yeah. I won't reveal my sources, but somebody did reach out to me who had a connection with the family and gave me his birthday. I,
Really? Oh,
yeah,
that's I was wondering how you got his birthday.
yeah, yeah. Now, I don't have an exact time.
Oh, he has the same birthday as my sister.
Oh, cute.
Different year, but same day.
Same day. Okay. Yeah. To go with the 9 p.m., normally I just do a noon chart. And, uh, you know, we still don't need to think too hard about the rising sign here. But he was having a third house year, a third house profected year. And so I was thinking, well, third house, if you die in a third house year, what planet could be in your third house? What, you know, it's obviously not going to be a benefic planet that
Mhm.
rules that house. And there's got to be some kind of like, you know, malefic in there. And so when I go with a 9 p.m., that gives him a Virgo rising, which I could see because I could see him being a Virgo rising because we've got that south node there. And we'll see when we look at the chart how that kind of highlights the south node. But also, yeah, I mean, we've gives us Scorpio in the third house with Pluto in there. I'm like, well, that's probably his most dangerous house, no matter, you know, what house the sign is in. So
Mhm.
I think it's very possible that his chart is similar to this. He had a Leo moon, which makes a lot of sense. Venus and the North Node conjunct makes a lot of sense. You know, he's really charismatic. He has a lot of Jupiter ruled stuff, which makes a lot of sense. And his Jupiter is in Aries, which is like, you know, fiery, independent, Jupiter, you know, lots of Jupiter stuff. I mean, someone who likes to travel, who likes to learn about the world around him by going places, learning by meeting people from different countries and traveling and being adventurous. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I could see, you know, Venus and Pisces, he probably had a dreamy quality about him when it came to him flirting or, you know, almost like a spiritual, at least people probably thought of him in like this kind of sexy spiritual way, or, you know, I could see that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's look at this new chart of the last time seen on his birth chart. Wow.
Anything.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. So the south node on the ascendant, if that's the ascendant, that would make sense,
Yeah.
you know, because this is a confirmed last time seen. This is a, we can really value the angles here, and the descendant, which is about death, is on his south node. Well, the descendant's not about, sorry, let me take that back. The descendant's not about death. Descendant's about other people, but in a chart, it can be about, like in many traditions of astrology, the seventh house and the descendant can be about the end of something, things coming to a conclusion. And then we've got the moon was in Sagittarius, being in his fourth house. This would be right on his IC. The IC can be about death. The IC is opposite of the MC. So, yeah, the moon would be passing through there. And we've got Venus close to his moon, Venus and Leo. Venus and Leo, if this is the 12th house, I mean, that could make sense, like a secret love affair or some kind of like behind the scenes sexual possibly thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, he could have been, maybe he got himself involved with the wrong person who, you know, maybe wasn't being honest with him and maybe had a partner and the partner found out and
Yeah.
crime.
And who
Yeah.
knows, maybe it was a man.
Yeah, that's why I'm not being gender specific here because
Right.
I'm not, Burning Man is Burning Man is the kind of place where all things kind of go. So it could have
And
been.
as we learned in our last episode, while under the influence, people hook up and they shave their pubes. So,
They sure do.
yeah.
Yeah. I learned something new and I learned something new last episode.
Yeah. Same. That's what I think about that. Yeah. I don't think we're going to know what happened until the person who did it confesses. And we know that and not confesses like they turn themselves in, but telling somebody about it, right?
I was going to say, but it's either that person will turn themselves in or they will probably like tell somebody who can't keep the secret or
Yeah.
or chooses not to keep it a secret. Like somebody else might already know and they might be
Yeah.
grappling with coming forward.
Yeah. And, the longer the person gets away with it, the more likely they are to spill the beans, like at a bar, or you know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
something like that.
Yep. Yep. Ooh. Shall we go on to our last one?
Yeah.
So next we're going to talk about the Nancy Guthrie case. So there have been many updates since we first aired this episode back in March. We aired this episode March 16th of this year. So it's been a few months and we've heard a lot about like ransom notes and then notes being sent to like TMZ and all this stuff. Well, today, a California man named Derek Kalela pled guilty to transmitting a fake ransom note to the family of missing 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. He faces sentencing on September 10th, 2026. Meanwhile, the FBI continues to classify Guthrie's disappearance from her Tucson, Arizona home as an active kidnapping for ransom investigation. So these are the major developments in the case since March. So, like I said, the first one is fake ransom notes. FBI evaluated several ransom notes sent to media outlets and the Guthrie family. While some were definitively identified as opportunistic extortion attempts, including the one sent by Kalila, federal authorities have stated they are still evaluating other communications. There have been several that have been sent. There were some that were sent that said that she is dead and basically saying that like they know where the body is. I don't know that those are associated with Kalela,
I
but
don't think so.
but so Derek Kalela of Hawthorne, California, did admit to sending a text message demanding Bitcoin to Guthrie's daughter and son in law. He's scheduled to be sentenced to 10 years of probation. So the investigation is ongoing. The Pima County Sheriff's Department and FBI have not identified any public suspects in the primary abduction. Law enforcement continues to evaluate digital media and physical evidence from the scene, where blood was found on the front porch following Nancy Guthrie's disappearance on July 31st, 2026. As far as the family is concerned, Savannah Guthrie, who is the co-anchor of the Today Show, recently spoke out on air about the unending trauma and agony that her family has endured over the first 5 months of the investigation. A $1 million reward remains active for information leading to Guthrie's whereabouts. So if anybody has any information about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, please contact the FBI by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or 1-800-225-5324. So yeah, so that's like the edited version of what's going on.
It seems like every day there's a new update about the ransom notes. There was one day where the FBI apparently came out and said that all ransom notes were fake.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next day they changed. That was like yesterday, the day before, and then this morning, they said they believe some might actually not be fake. Like, okay,
Right. It's like, what
yeah,
are we doing?
right. And other things that have come out since we did the episode, there's been a lot of, I know we got flack for, apparently being negative about the FBI, although we were talking about the FBI leadership.
Oh, did we?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't tell you all the comments, but we did
I don't read
get
the comments because I don't
yeah.
care.
I don't really care either, but
I don't care about your hot takes, people. Sorry.
well, I care about the hot takes when they're engaging with our, and they're interested, but not when
That's
they're
true. Okay.
yeah.
I like a hot take. I don't like a like a I don't know. We're gonna cut all this out.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Never. I take
But
it all back.
yeah, and I don't remember why. Why did I bring up the comment? Oh, because people were saying that we were dogging the FBI. Not dogging the FBI. I know it's a hard job, and I've had dreams in the past of like, oh, I would love to be an investigator and all that stuff. And I have a lot of respect for the people that are there to help people. But as we know, a lot of leadership in all facets of government are not the most reliable. That's
Cash
all.
Patel sucks. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's why the communication is all over the place and doesn't make sense. But also not just the FBI, but like the sheriff of this town has been in a lot of controversy. And
Yeah.
apparently he's also been really bad about cooperating with the FBI. So it's been going every which way.
Yeah.
So let's look at the chart. Now, also since the last time we spoke about this, since our episode, there's been a lot more emphasis on this 1:47 a.m.
That's when the app on our pacemaker stopped pinging, right?
Right. But it was also when the Ring camera was turned off. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So that is like when everything they believe began.
Yep.
Nancy Guthrie. So let's look at the triplicity method with this one. We've got Scorpio rising, meaning that Mars represents Nancy. And in the seventh house, it's Taurus. So that means Venus represents the perpetrator or perpetrators, which I'm believing more and more is definitely more than one person.
Oh, I think so as well.
Yeah. So order of events. So we start with, okay, so this is a night chart, Scorpio, so it's water. So that means we're going to look at Mars, then Venus, then the moon.
Okay.
So first we have Mars in the third house, the neighborhood, kind of like waiting, right? Probably stalking and waiting for a certain time to do the deed. In Aquarius, technology. So, the Ring camera and her pacemaker, all the technology around that being a part of the story. And also probably how they've gotten away with it so far is something related to technology that, whether that's like their digital footprint they've been able to keep under wraps or something, right? I do think that technology is a big part of this story. So you've got Mars here, and Mars is approaching the sun. We can even think of, if we want Nancy as the sun here, she's being kind of surrounded by all this other stuff in her neighborhood. And, the heart of the matter is what the sun represents. And, the heart of the matter is this woman that disappeared.
Yeah.
So next we look at Venus. So now we've gone on the other side of the sun. We've got Venus, and it is conjunct Mercury. Is it, maybe a neighbor, somehow related to a neighbor being the third house and neighborhood, but also extended family is third house. I know they've ruled out the family, and I'm not saying that they're involved, but is it a connection, like someone that knew about Nancy because of her family?
Yeah. Well, I know that last time we had talked about the possibility that it could be like someone at least associated with the family.
Yeah,
I think that was something that you had seen in the astrology last time.
yeah,
So I feel like this just kind of further supports that theory. It's just a theory, folks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's more likely that it's like, somebody who used to work with her daughter's husband, or, like, not that specifically, but that kind of like in the community through family, through people she knows, they were aware of her and the wealth and all that,
Yeah.
and her connection obviously to her famous daughter. Like I said before, Venus is conjunct Mercury. Mercury can be about ransom notes, especially in forensic astrology. So that makes me feel like at least one of these ransom notes is legit.
It's just so hard to know because there have been so many of them and
Right.
don't all seem like they're coming from the same source.
For
So
sure. I think they're going to figure it out eventually. But Venus and Mercury is also like the getaway car. It's traveling. It's like, all right, we've got you. Now we are heading out. And the last planet, the moon in Leo in the ninth house. So this is like taking her out of town, possibly out of the country. What happened next, I'm not sure. I do believe the theory that she may have passed away eventually, not right away. But, if they were holding her for ransom, she's an elderly woman and she doesn't have the things she needs, her medication, her pacemaker, all these things.
yeah.
Also, maybe the Venus and Mercury connection could point to youth. So these might be younger people that did this, and stupidity of youth, not, got to keep your person alive if you want that ransom money,
Yeah.
you know?
Do you think, and I don't know if the astrology points to this or not, but do you think that whoever abducted her was like seasoned and knew what they were doing? I guess you kind of already answered it by saying,
To an extent, I think. I think it's more than one person that did this. And so it might be a mix of younger and more seasoned people. Like one of those, what was it, the DC sniper? How, he was like in the military, but he had that young guy who was like, he was a teenager, right? That was helping him.
yep.
So I'm not saying a teenager, but, a very young person.
So you're saying that you think that there's a possibility that she may have been taken out of the country?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. I remember when we first did the episode, there was something in the astrology that pointed toward her possibly being there was like maybe like a 20-mile radius from
Right.
where her house was. Do you think that maybe like between when we aired that episode and now, like that those circumstances may have changed since then?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Or she died. They got rid of her remains in the desert, and then they headed to Mexico.
Okay. So you think that okay. So
So
you think
maybe they didn't take her there, but that's probably where
they
they
could
are
have
now.
fled?
Yeah.
They could have fled themselves.
Yeah. I think highly likely. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, we kind of
I
had updates.
definitely. Well, we had updates. We didn't solve anything again,
Yeah.
but more insight. And I do think that I feel more confident in a lot of our theories. While not a lot has come out since a lot of these cases, there's enough that feels like it's along the line of where we were looking at.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're gonna do these kinds of episodes periodically.
Yeah.
Well, stay safe.
Well, remember we have an email address
We
now.
do. We do. Yeah. If you have any updates or information or commentary or
If you have a story that not a lot of people know about and you're like, I would love you to cover this, like send us the details.
yeah, or if you want to yell at us for criticizing the FBI, shoot us an email at astrologyunknown@gmail.com. And yeah, we'll see you next time, everybody.
Don't melt.
Stay mysterious.